This is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. In convention news to start this off, now confirmed for Rustorama, the convention we were talking about last week.
The Hot Rod Show.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this one's going to be a little bit different. Well, actually, quite a bit different than anything I've ever done before, because while I have set up at like tattoo cons and antique shows, I've never done any sort of hot rod show. From what I gathered just by looking at the flyers, mini trucks, motorcycles, hot rods, probably rat rods.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
a lot
I think
of
it
cool
will
stuff
be.
to look at.
Yeah, and I know at least one other creator type will be there. Floyd will be there. He used to make comics. He was interviewed, 8 podcasts ago, something like that. He was one of the people I interviewed while I was at the I Like Comic Con. He has done the show every year. I think he said for the last 3. He swears by it. He kept recommending it to me last year, but I wasn't able to do it last year. I don't remember if we had a con that conflicted with it or if there was a kid's birthday, something like that. But anyway, when I saw it opened up this year, I decided to give it a shot, and we'll see how that goes.
Mid-July?
Yeah, mid-July. As we talked about briefly, I'm having Melissa do a series of pinups for it to have produced as t-shirts and prints that are a little bit different than what I've ever done art-wise, because it's Gil Elfgren inspired pinup pieces. So the Melissa and Lucy piece are now fully completed. Now she's hard at work on one for Principalities.
I haven't seen the Lucy one.
Okay, remind me after it's done recording and I'll show it to you.
Well, different medium to print on and style of art, but it's also a different show.
Yes, exactly. But I also think doing something like this, because if I was just doing it for just one show, it's probably not going to be profitable. You know, you need to be able to sell it at multiple shows. But I think doing it, some pieces like this that I can put on t-shirts and prints will go over really well at the horror conventions too. So I don't know if I can really count on selling a whole lot of them at Comic Cons, but I think when Crypticon rolls around again, or any show like that, they'll sell really well at those type of events.
I think so.
Pin-up pieces with ghosts, vampires, it's going to go over well at a horror show, I do believe.
That's their kind of style right there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that in addition to some t-shirts, I might be able to get some Dickies work shirts printed up.
Are you just thinking like straight pin up right onto a white shirt, black shirt?
Yeah, white shirts still sell pretty well, but if I could get some varying colors, that would be good. You got to kind of be picky about that, because any area that's white is going to have the background color printed on it. So, you got to be really careful when you choose what color of fabrics you're going to print on.
Yeah, I think as long as you go like just the straight thing on, the straight picture, and you don't have to put a back to it.
Right.
That'll look good.
Yeah.
I hate seeing those shirts that have like a square box.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't work so well when you just take a comic image and directly transfer it straight over. Like a cover from a comic.
Mm-hmm.
You need to cut it up in a way, because things lay on fabric a lot differently than they do on a printed page.
Yeah.
And if you put it as more of like a rectangle, then it looks like it was made for something else and you're just transposing it to this.
I think white would make them pop, and I think that at least the first one I saw.
The Melissa piece?
Yeah. I think that'll look good on black.
Yeah, I think it would too. We'll see, because that's actually what Christy requested for her shirt for the Ghost Assassin Kickstarter. So I'll be able to prototype it up in that way.
She asked for that photo?
Mm-hmm. Oh. That image, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
which brings me to a little bit of Kickstarter news. So, as you know, I was waiting on some final sizes and image choices prior to ordering up the t-shirts. Well, as of tonight, I finally have all that information. So the last couple of people that I need to hear from got me that info.
Nice. So you're ready to send out then?
I'm ready to order those. So I was waiting to order the t-shirts until I got that info back.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to order the t-shirts onesie, twosie. I wanted to be able to order them in one big bulk.
Yeah, that was a poor word choice. I meant send out to the printer.
Oh, yes, send out to the printer. Yeah.
Is that the last thing that you needed from people?
Yes. Yep, that was the final bit of info, because anything else I need, like if someone hasn't sent their address or anything like that, it doesn't matter if they get it to me right this second or when I'm closer to ship out.
Yeah, there's still a little time.
Yeah, there's still
shirts
time.
Need to be made.
There are still some survey responses I haven't got yet that are people whose addresses I'll need, but I have faith that they'll get them to me by then. And if not, I'm sure a friendly reminder email will get the addresses I need.
Did you get any of those high tiers? Wasn't there one about getting into the comic?
Yes.
You got...
There are 2 that are getting into a comic. That will be in issue number 4. Issue number 4 or issue number 5.
Anyone dead?
Yes. There was 1 living and 1 ghost, if I remember right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are they going to be... So then the person that's dead is going to be killed by your character?
No, that wasn't actually part of the Kickstarter thing. Although, potentially, maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
That's something we'd actually talked about, is having someone drawn in as a person who then got killed. The incentive level was for them to be drawn in as a ghost in one of the issues. So, because you've read Ghost Assassin before, that there are scenes where David will be walking through an area and there'll just be a random ghost. So it happens to be around because
they might be random.
Yeah, because even if the panel's not drawn from his viewpoint, everything that you see in the world is seen from what he would see.
It'd be funny if the living person killed the dead person.
Well, I might be able to work out something like that. Who knows?
That'd be pretty good.
Basically, what I will probably do is just kind of send them overviews of what's happening on those pages and let them decide which page they would like to be a ghost on. So, do they want it to be in an action scene? Do they want it to be in a speaking scene? Do they just want to be a background character in a parking lot? What do they want?
So they'll at least have some options there.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's kind of cool, rather than just being, hey, you're this little background character.
Yeah, unless it's a thing to where Joel just has a perfect place in mind for where this person should be, then, that's completely different too. But for the most part, I'll give, at least limited choices.
It's good to have choice.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit, though.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You don't give people too much choice. They don't like it.
Nah, not too much. So in other news, there's not much time left to fund Black Suit of Death number 3 on Kickstarter. So even though that's not a Darkslinger thing, it's tangentially related because, it's Ben's Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So if you have not done so, check out Black Suit of Death issue number 3 on Kickstarter. And remember that we are giving you full permission to message Ben after you've backed and tell him fuck you.
Only after you've backed.
Only after you've backed. We can't stress that part enough.
But you got to stay in it the whole time. You can't back out at the last minute.
Yeah, that's actually a good little addendum to put in.
Because if you do, then fuck you.
Exactly. And artwork news. So in addition to getting the Lucy piece this week, I also have not had the chance to check it off quite yet. I checked off the prelims about a week ago, so I'm sure they're fantastic because I loved the prelim. I just got the finished artwork that I'm going to be checking off right after this podcast for the first piece in The Little Lame Mime and the Mini Slingers. That's a working title. I don't know if it'll be the final title. New webcomic series.
What was it?
Mini Slingers.
I like it.
You like that?
Yeah.
It might be the actual title. Ghost Assassin was a working title for that book for like the first 6 issues that I wrote. And I kept telling Emily that I need a name for this book. She's like, well, you've been calling it Ghost Assassin. Yeah, but I don't know. Is that a good title? Yeah. I don't know. Is it?
Gonna be the same thing.
It probably will be. Usually the working titles end up being my actual titles.
Do you ever have any big changes for your titles?
Let's see. Chronicles of Von Helsing, Ghost Assassin, The Pauper, Reflection, El Bovine Muerte. And that one, I don't even know how I came up with that name, by the way. Like, I have absolutely not a clue what made me name that book that.
A joke.
Because nobody in the comic speaks Spanish, and yet I put L,
I'm gonna bet it was just a joke.
It probably was. I don't know how I came up with it, though. Like,
well, the whole thing is, it's just a joke.
It's nonsensical.
Yeah.
So the title is nonsensical as well. No, the Principalities was there from the get-go. I think I usually go with the title that's the first thing that I come up with.
Well, this is good enough. I guess if it works, it works.
Yeah. But anyway, this will be a pinup that's used on Mother's Day.
With the kids?
Mm-hmm. I have just a little bit of revision still to do on that script, but since I've been so busy with all the printing and all that, and I had to type up EBM number 5 I just have not had time to sit down and finish scripts. So I asked Patrick if he'd like to do a holiday pinup so that we can go ahead and get started on this webcomic and give me a little bit more time to finish up. And so he sent me an early prelim of Lay Mime and his mother on Mother's Day, and I absolutely loved it.
So he has a mom.
Yes. In this story, Lay Mime's parents are going to be the dad that's been featured, and El Bovine Marte is featured in 2 pages in the half issue. His mom has never even been remotely discussed, but in this, his parents are together. I don't know yet who the Pauper's parents are in this particular book, but David and Todd are going to both be kind of under the umbrella of David's parents. So although Todd's not his brother, they're both going to live, with them. Those are the parents they're going to be seen with. Both the vampires and the Von Helsings will all live at Jeannie Marie's house. So Grandma Jeannie is going to have all of these.
They're all coming together?
Yeah. So I'm kind of choosing characters that are adults in the main series and keeping them as adults in this series. Mm-hmm. And then these kids live in groups in their houses,
Interesting idea.
Yeah, and Melissa's mom is actually featured in Ghost Assassin briefly in the earlier issues. Not in issue number 1, 2, or 3, but you see her in issue number 5 and 6. That's easy because I can just pull her from Ghost Assassin if I ever need to show Melissa's mom. So I don't know how much of the parents I'll ever actually show, but it's important that I know how the world works. So, the world building's done in my head to the point to where I know the groupings of who lives with who, except for the Pauper. I cannot figure out who he should live with. But
just a sad little kid.
There is kind of a bad guy, so to speak, because, with my books, everybody's kind of a bad guy. There is a bad guy who's definitely a bad guy in the Pauper. He's somebody David runs across in Ghost Assassin. And he's a major dickhead. And the way I write the Pauper as a kid is that he's a bit of a bully. So I kind of like the idea that maybe that's like his adopted dad in the Mini-Slingers universe.
That could work.
Yeah. But I'm doing some of the adults like his parents, and some of them is teachers at the school.
Teachers?
Yeah. So the main characters that you're used to from the books, like David is a kid in this. Lay Mime is a kid in it. Robert and Ezekiel are kids in this.
All the main characters are kids.
Right, but Gabriel from Principalities is going to be the principal of the school because he's an archangel. So why wouldn't he be, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Looming over the children.
Exactly.
Trying to keep them in line.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Should be funny.
Yeah, I think it will be. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but that's okay. I mean, part of the reason you listen to a podcast is so you get a few spoilers, right?
I guess?
I guess.
I don't know.
This is very inspired by Calvin and Hobbes. I usually don't take things from other works when I'm writing, but I'm making an exception for this one because this is humor in a completely different way than I've ever written. In this little side pocket universe, or whatever you want to call it, Lay Mime has a plush of Muerte that he sees as a living being. And Sally will occasionally see Mr. Muffkins is this fucked up living teddy bear. Or not teddy bear, real life bear.
I like that because I was wondering what you would do with Marte.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how I was going to work her in this story, and then I was like, this thing's already so inspired by Calvin and Hobbes. Why don't I just go the full gamut?
Might as well.
Yeah. Both of their plushes will be seen as living. Of course, the other kids can see them as living, too. Just like the other kids could see Hobbes. It wasn't just Calvin who could see Hobbes. Susie could see him as an actual living tiger, too.
Oh, I guess I didn't read enough of that to know.
Ah, yeah. Susie had a stuffed animal that Calvin could see, too. I don't remember what his name was. Maybe it was a teddy bear? I don't remember. But in any case, when you watch kids play, they always seem to know what the personalities are of each other's stuffed animals and toys. So
they're very good at imagining.
Yeah, exactly.
They get it.
So, Muerte for the most part is just a plush that Lay Mime will be carrying around. But he'll also see her as a real life cow. So and I may keep in the whole thing.
Like a little cow?
Yeah, she'll be short. I may keep the whole thing, in El Bovine Muerte, Lay Mime always calls himself Muerte's mommy. So I might keep that in. That Mini Lay Mime does the same thing.
I like that.
But, it's just completely out of continuity, so it's just all
just a
about
story
having
to have
fun.
fun
And,
with.
yeah.
Even more fun than having with Lay Mime.
Yeah, well, it's a different iteration of Lay Mime, so.
Different for every one of the characters.
Right. And one of the things I'm planning on doing is, as new titles come into the Darkslinger publishing line, they will slowly be introduced into the story. So, there'll occasionally be new kids at the school, or kids that were background characters that you never really knew were important to the story, because I might have Patrick start working them in just in the background of the playground, and then they'll start to get their own stories as the stories are coming out that feature them.
Are they all going to be the same age in the same class?
Most of them. Sally is a kindergartner in it.
So what if instead of principal, you go with a teacher?
A teacher for whom?
Michael? Is it?
Oh, Gabriel.
Gabriel, there.
No, they have a teacher who's already in my head, but that one would actually be a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
So, luckily, I don't get to anything with the teacher until around the time that I'm hoping this book comes out. So, I'm keeping that one a little bit more under wraps for the moment.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I've always had a definitive idea of who their teacher was. So,
For the long, short life of this idea.
actually, this is something that's been rolling around in my head for about 2 to 3 years now.
Oh.
I just finally decided to do something with it.
Might as well. It's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you want to talk about your comics are coming to print too, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kickstarter.
My printer told me that it should be, because they're going into production now, so it should be about 5 days production and then about 3 days to ship. And so hopefully, you still got to figure that it may be like 2 weeks, but hopefully maybe about 8 to 9 days. And you got to figure that's all business days as well.
Yeah.
And we're heading into the weekend, so I expect a little bit of production delay for the weekend. But the thing is once they actually hit print on the offset machine for these to be stamped, it's not like they're going to stop over the weekend. So it's 5 days, and some point in that 5-day span, they'll most likely go into print. And then as soon as they do, it's just packaging them all up in the cartons, getting them loaded on the truck, and getting them sent out,
It's all coming together.
Yep. All coming together. And it looks like my estimation of when I'd be able to have the books out is going to be accurate. So that makes me quite happy.
Always good to be on time.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So now it's time to start planning the second Kickstarter of the year.
You figured that one out yet?
I wish I could tell you that I had. But no.
Still up in the air?
Still up in the air.
Between the two?
Between the two. In order to do the Chronicles Von Helsing hardcover, all of the pages still have to be colored. And if I'm going to be the one who's doing it, I just have not had time. So I wish that I had, but I haven't. So I'm going to see if I manage to somehow get the time in the next couple weeks, but if I don't, I might have to look at bringing a colorist in.
If you can swing it, it might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
To free up your time for all the other stuff.
Right, I know.
Or if Tony goes with that other idea.
Yes, and that is something that I need to get in touch with him and talk to him about.
That one would be pretty cool, too.
Yes, it would be. Yeah, there's a lot of different ideas rolling around at the moment.
Do you have your next one after that planned already, too?
I think the next one after that may actually be... Okay, so it might come to pass that the next two are both Chronicles Von Helsing Kickstarters. But I would also like to do a trade paperback edition El Bovine Morte number 1 through 4 in the half issue. So it may come to pass that that's the next Kickstarter after the Chronicles Von Helsing one. It's just going to be kind of dependent because I don't want to start that before all of issue number 4 has ran. I would like to have that Kickstarter going as issue number 5 is going.
See what comes.
We'll see what comes, yeah. With that, I also need to re-letter issues number 2, 3, and some of the additional material for Bovine Marte. But it should be a pretty sizable trade. I think standard Marvel trades these days are 96 pages, I think. And I think this one will clock in about 128 pages in total.
That sounds like a pretty good size trade.
Yeah, I think it will be. So, and I'm not going straight to hardcover with El Bovine Marte like I am Chronicles Von Helsing. I'm doing trade paperbacks first.
can only imagine what a hardcover for Oboe Von Merte would look like.
It would look awesome.
Probably. I feel like the whole thing would be colored in his world. Either that or it would just be like striped.
Striped?
Yeah.
On the hardcover itself, you mean?
Yeah. For lay behind.
Yeah. Well, I like it when you take a dust jacket off and you see something really cool underneath on the book wrap. So maybe I will do that, like have the dust jacket be something normal, but when you take it off, the book will be striped white and black with a fleur-de-lis in the middle of it.
That'd be cool.
That would be. But I kind of want to do like the Oboe Von Merte release schedule like this. I want to do short runs of all of the issues so that people who aren't webcomic fans, and there's a lot of people who like reading their stuff in print, not in webcomic format.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
I'm one of those people too. We'll get the opportunity to buy print editions at cons or online for me or what have you. Release a trade that collects the story arcs. So, like this particular story arc is 4 issues, and the half issue kind of fits into the story arc. It's kind of like a bonus story too. Release it like that, and then do a hardcover that's more of a deluxe edition where it has like 2 trade paperbacks per hardcover. But I'll probably wait until I have at least 4 or 5 trades out before I release one hardcover like that.
Smart. You can put a lot into a hardcover.
Yes.
So you might as well. It gets more bang for your buck.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's not many things that I buy a hardcover of.
I'm the exact opposite. I love hardcover. If I have the opportunity to buy a hardcover, I'll buy that over trade any day of the week.
It depends on the price.
It doesn't with me. And you can tell because you've seen the fact that I have a bunch of omnibus editions.
Keep trading up in your stuff.
I do keep trading up, and I have the big fat omnibus edition of things like that. But trading up works pretty well. If you have like the single issues and you sell them off or trade them off, and you get the trade paperback, you usually have a little bit of extra cash on top of that. Especially if you've only paid what I have when I buy them in bulk. And then if there's like an omnibus edition, bam, I sell the trade paperbacks, get that.
Yeah.
It
does work out in your lifestyle.
It can, yeah. It's amazing what you can do when you trade everything and when you buy all these big bulk purchases, And
people don't think to trade anymore.
No, they don't unless you use things like offer up and let go and things like that, I got probably $500 to $600 worth of comics in exchange for a $40 item this year off of OfferUp. And it was from somebody messaging me saying, hey, I've got a bunch of graphic novels. Would you trade it for this? Da-da-da. Well, what do you have? Well, I just live down the road from you. You want to come check it out? Okay, sure. So I show up. I'm like, are you sure you want to trade all this for this? They're not doing me a bit of good, and I want, what you have. Okay. All right. Cool. So
works out.
Yeah. I'm not going to complain.
Some people just want to get rid of what they have.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently he and his wife were moving, so they wanted to move as much stuff as possible, but what I had was something they wanted bad enough to take it with them. That works out. And I'm assuming he looked them all up on eBay because he seemed to know about them, but he just didn't care.
Yeah, it takes time to list all that shit.
Mm-hmm. It would. But, which some of it I will be listing. But at the same time, some of it I'll be trading, and some of it
you'll be keeping.
Some of it I'll be keeping. We're going to go ahead and talk about some upcoming conventions. I've been going through and making the list like I was talking about the conventions that are coming up. And I'm marking down, what the prices are, what town they're in, and any information that I have is going to help me decide and whether or not it's a show we should do. You're going to give me your feedback on it, and we're going to talk for a minute about it. So this is an incomplete list at the moment. It's just what I've been able to do thus far.
Okay.
So the shows that we're confirmed for are WinCon, which is in Wenatchee, Washington. Is happening on the 21st of this month. Rustorama, which is on July 21st, which is a show we talked about earlier. And I'm confirmed for the Hillsborough Library Authors Event, which I don't think that's the official title. I think that's just what I wrote down, which is happening on September 22nd. So those are the 3 that I am confirmed for at the moment. Now those that I know about but have not decided to pull the trigger on yet, or what have you. Some of it is also just haven't had the money to pay for a table yet, things like that. So Sasquatch, I need to look into. I don't know what the date is yet. That one, as long as it's not conflicting with the show that I'm doing as Darkslinger, I'll be doing. It's a cheap table. It's very similar to Frankenstein. It happens down in Eugene. I've done super well there every time I've gone there, and I've made quite a bit of money every time I've gone there. Frankenstein, it's really rare to sell any Darkslinger product, but that is one way that Sasquatch differs from Frankenstein, is I've actually had quite the easy time selling Darkslinger product to that show. So, all the more reason to go to it, right?
Yeah, I've never been there, but Frankenstein does seem for people that are looking for the older stuff.
Right. It is a slightly less crowded version in a lot of ways. But it's also in like an Elks Lodge or a Moose Lodge or whatever those places are,
They're all the same.
Yeah.
Old people gather to drink cheap beer.
I did it 2 times last year. Had a good time at both of the times. Thought it was a good show to do, so there's no reason I won't do it again. If Donna, the owner of it, has it more than once, then I'll probably do it more than once. So, like I said, I just need to check on what date that is, because I believe that one is in May. So the next one is happening April 28th through the 29th, and it's in Medford, and it's their Library Comic Con. Here's the pros about that. It's a Library Comic Con.
Okay.
We had a great time in Hillsboro. It was the most profitable show I've done in years. Sold more Darkslinger product at it than I have at any other show in years. Here's the cons about it. Medford's like 6 hours away, right?
Yeah.
It's a 2-day event. So if it were just a 1-day, I'd be more likely to see if I get a table there. There's no info on the website about getting tables either. And just because it's Library Con doesn't mean that you should make the assumption that it's free.
Yeah, that's a good thing to not assume.
Yeah, because not every library is going to be a free event. So
This is the first time for them?
No, I believe this is their second year.
That's a tough call.
It is. I know that last year there were dealers set up at it, because I talked to a gentleman at Sasquatch who had set up at that show, and I said, "Oh, you're a comic creator too?" And he looked at me weird, and he said, "No, I was reselling stuff there." It's like, "Oh, okay," because library cons that we're standardly hear about, are author signings and things like that.
You would think.
Yeah. So it is a little bit different. I do have a friend in Medford. I don't know if she'd be willing to, let us impose on her all night by staying there. I wouldn't want to make that assumption. I think that one gets crossed off the list merely because of the 2-day show.
Yeah, it might not be worth all that.
It's a long ways to travel for a 2-day show you don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
So on May 4th through the 6th is Crypticon. Unfortunately, sold out. I'm keeping Crypticon on my list, though, just because I want to keep that there as a reminder to make sure I get into that con next year.
Yeah.
So as soon as they open up for 2019 booths, I want to be right on that. So that's the whole reason Crypticon got left there. So, and if I don't have anything going on that weekend, I am actually just thinking about just cruising up there for the day. Because Crypticon is fun enough that I could see just walking around. And all the times we've ever done Crypticon, I've never made a full lap around the whole entire thing.
I have, but I barely looked.
Okay, that's fair. I never seem to make it to the very back room. I always have to come back to the table for something. So, May 12th is a show that's once again in Medford, and I have 2 days to decide if I want to do this show or not. It's called the Meadowlark Comic Con. Now, this is more of your standard convention center type Comic Con. It looks like it's pretty decent sized. To the best of my knowledge, Medford's never really had anything in that area, with the exception of this Medford Comic Con. Here's the pros. 1 day. So yeah, we're driving a considerable distance, but it's far less of an imposition to have your friend let you hang out and rest there for a little bit than it's like, hey, can I spend the night here,
Yeah.
So only 1 day isn't too bad. 12 hours worth of driving 1 day. Yeah, it's a lot, but I've done more. So it's not horrible. And it's an area that I've never been seen. I always think that's a very good thing. The cons, it is still 12 hours worth of driving.
Yeah.
So while I have done worse, that's still a lot of driving.
You say May 12th?
May 12th.
Well, another con is I have a previous engagement for May 12th.
Okay, so I know that you're out of rotation if I do that one.
Yeah.
The amount to do it isn't that much. $80 might seem like a lot, but it's really not that much for a booth. I don't view the amount that the table costs as a pro or a con. $80 is within range of what I will try show out for. What do you think about that one, pro or con wise?
80 doesn't seem
too one bad. More con though. The Medford Comic Con that's happening at the library is at the end of April, and this one is in the middle of May. Generally, if somebody's going to end up having spent all their budgeting money for the month on like extra things like comics and things like that, and they go to 2 shows, they'll have probably already done it at the first show. So that's a little bit of a concern of mine, depending on how well known the Medford Library Comic Con is that there's a bit of competition there. There could potentially be a bit of competition there between the 2 cons for the fans' money.
Yeah, but if the second one is bigger and more people know about it, I wouldn't worry about that.
They have postcards they're distributing through comic shops up here, things like that. That's how I found out about it.
Well, it sounds pretty big.
Yeah.
And libraries aren't exactly huge places to have these things.
No, they're not. I have no idea how big the Medford Library is, but I'd imagine it wouldn't be too big. So, but all the same, having 2 cons running back to back in the same area, I do view as a con.
If you were going to pick one or the other, I'd pick the second one.
I would too, because it's a 1-day event. If the Comic Con at the library was a 1-day event, I might have a more difficult time making a decision between the 2.
Is that like, so that one's the immediate decision that you need to make?
I need to make within the next 2 days because they close their vendor applications on April 12th.
Yeah, that is in a couple days.
Yes.
If it seems, it is an area that you haven't been to.
Mm-hmm.
And if it seems like it's going to be a bigger show than the library, and how long has it been going? Do you know?
I believe, I'm not totally positive, but I believe this is the first year.
Oh, that can be a little tough or really good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big.
Sometimes the first year is the best year, and you know the show's not returning because you can tell, but the show still went really well for you personally. Or first years can be completely awful, you know.
And they have advertising as far up as this.
But then again, you know, I've been to shows that have been around for 18 years that were horrid. I know a lot of people judge things based on whether something's a first year or not. Like, Ben won't do first year shows. But I've done a lot of first year shows. And I've actually found that some of the best shows are first year shows. Because there's so much that the person puts into pulling it off the first time.
All right. I guess then the question is, do you want to spend 24 hours awake and dealing with a show?
Yes.
Well then, $80, do it.
Okay. So, on that same day in Tacoma, Washington is Fantasticon. They're sold out, but I need to talk to Don Roman, even if it's to potentially cancel something, because I had talked to him previously and he had talked to me about having a table there for the podcast. And so I don't know if they still reserve that. They had put up there that they sold out on the Facebook page, and I'm hoping they are not reserving a table for me. So that's something I'm going to have to talk to him about, to let him know, hey, if you have an opportunity to sell that table, please sell it. Because between the 2, I would rather be at this Medford Con, and it's not the Fantastic Con. Isn't a Fantastic Con.
It's in the name.
Right? No, it is. I did it 2 times last year, but it is, when it comes down to it, the same exact sort of show that Sasquatch, Frankenstein, those sorts of shows are. And I absolutely love doing those shows, but I've already got enough of those on the list, and I need more Darkslinger-centric shows. And Fantasticon is not a show for moving independent projects.
Yeah, if you can cancel it without being a dick, then
right. I go way, way back with the con runner. I'm positive that I can do it without being a dick, you know.
And if they're sold out, then that's a pretty good sign that you can sell another one.
Yeah.
Another table.
And I'm pretty sure there's going to be another Fantasticon towards the end of the year. So I'll do that one.
There you go.
So the next one is happening June 2nd through 3rd, and that's the Lilac City Comic Con, which I'd spoke about last week. Yeah. And unfortunately, it sold out.
Ah, lame.
So this one took me by surprise. The Spokane Con, which is what this is now a much bigger show. And they did experience sellouts in the past when I did the shows. But it took a while. And I didn't expect this one to sell out months ahead of time. So I thought I still had some time to get in on that one. But it just goes to show that when a show opens up, if you really want to do it, just like with Crypticon, get on it.
That's too bad.
I did not, so I won't be doing that one this year. So June 9th is the second Frankenstein of the year. Do we really need to say anything about Frankenstein? We already know we'll be doing it.
Yeah.
So we'll be there.
There you go.
It's as simple as that. So Frankenstein, we'll have a great time. So June 22nd through the 24th is this new convention happening in Seattle that's called the Ace Comic Con. Now, the Ace Comic Con is a little bit of a strange one to me because usually I'm fairly good at keeping up on what all the shows are. You know that. I mean, judging by this list I put together already, you should know that. But I only know about this one because I saw Ben post a link to it asking what it is, right? So here's the pros about it, okay? It's in Seattle. I've usually traditionally done pretty well in Seattle. Not always. Seattle is also a con to it because Emerald City is one of those shows that you do really, really well at or you completely lose your ass at. Another con is Emerald City was not that long ago, and this is happening within months of it, and this is a 3-day show. To the best of my knowledge, this is the first one they've ever had in Seattle. This company, Ace, I've never heard of them prior to a couple of weeks ago. And they've already had a show in Arizona, and then another one, I can't remember what state the other one was in. And their newest one is in Seattle. So there are a lot of new convention companies that are popping up that are having cons in several different cities. And some of them, it's greatly successful. Some of them it's not. Walker Stalker seems like it's been pretty successful in every city it's gone into. Geekcraft seems like it's been really successful in every city it's gone into. And then there are other companies that buy up Comic Cons. Like the company that owns Emerald City right now is not the company that started it, but they bought it out. And so the whole thing about this is, even if they've had 2 shows that have been successful in other cities, every city you move into is going to be different. Mm-hmm. There are some Wizard Worlds that I hear are absolutely fantastic. Everybody I've ever talked to has told me to avoid Wizard World Portland like the plague. So the one thing I will give Wizard World is it seems to be the show that all the normies know about, all the non-comic readers. That's not necessarily a good thing either.
All the normies.
All the normies. That's not necessarily a great thing, though, because that just means you have more people who might come by that don't buy comics.
Yeah, it's harder to sell to them.
Another con with the Ace Comic Con is I've been all over their website and I cannot find a single thing about how much being a vendor costs.
That was going to be my question.
And you would think if it's coming up in June, you would know that info by now, right?
Yeah.
So overall, no matter how much it costs, though, it's a 3-day event in Seattle where everything is hella expensive. The hotel's expensive, even if you're on a group rate, unless it's like on the outskirts by where they have Crypticon, it's a bit cheaper out there. But judging by the photos, I think this is going to be actually downtown Seattle.
That's expensive.
When you see a show like this coming in this time span close to another show like Emerald City Comic Con, you get the impression that this show might be trying to take on another show. Emerald City is the Seattle con at this point, right? So that just seems like a suicide mission to me. I'm not interested in being a kamikaze pilot. They do have some really big guests, though, like Tom Hiddleston is going to be there, as well as his brother Thor.
That's going to draw people.
Yes, but it's going to draw autograph seekers.
Yeah.
And autograph seekers are going to have spent $75 to get through the door, and I guarantee it's going to be like $50 to $75 to get in the door if it's in Seattle and they have these guests this big. And they're going to spend $150 to get an autograph. Most of the people who are going to be spending that, even if they love comics, probably are not going to be left with enough money to purchase anything.
3 days is a long con.
It is. It would be a lot in hotel. It would be a lot in that. And if this is a first year show, quite frankly, that is way too much of a commitment for me.
Yeah, and even if they're successful this year, it's just going to get more expensive next year.
Yes, exactly. But I would be more likely to do it next year if I have some of my friends tell me how good it is. I'm not interested in reading online reviews, anything like that. I need to figure out which of my friends might be going to the show and get a real review from them. You can trust people who are in a similar market as you are. You know what I mean? So that same weekend, what makes that decision a little bit easier is on the 23rd, one-day show, is the Greater Wenatchee Toy Show. So this is a Wenatchee con that I did last year. This is the whole reason that Wenatchee got on my radar. So I haven't messaged Casey yet, the gentleman who runs the show, but I plan on doing that and seeing if he just has applications, or if he'll have, because he will be at WinCon on the 21st.
This is in June, right?
This is in June.
All right, well, you can pretty much count me out of anything in June.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm busy every weekend for work.
Okay. I have 2 other people in rotation right now for convention helpers, so you're unnecessary. So
Perfect. My job's done. I'm gone.
I'm not sure what the table cost is yet, but I'm pretty positive it's going to be under $50. As long as the trip to Wenatchee on the 21st and possibly the trip to Medford in May don't completely wipe me out and leave me not wanting to travel at all, I plan on doing the Greater Wenatchee Toy Show again. And I'm only doing Darkslinger at WinCon, but the toy show I will be taking extra inventory as well. That's, some resale boxes, some toy boxes, things like that.
Is that toy and record show is that going on?
That is, I have not looked into the dates yet. That's something that still needs to be added to the list. So we had decided not to do another one at the end of last year, but some things have changed since then because I looked around at the sheer amount of cassettes that I have. And I honestly think cassettes would do well at that show. And I think a lot of the excess inventory that I have here would do well at that show. So,
well, I hope if you go to that one, it's not on a day that I can't make it.
Okay. I will keep that in mind. There'll be 2 more of those this year. So even if
they do a few every year?
Yeah, they do 3, I believe, every year. So even if we miss the next one, I'm sure we'll be golden for the one that comes after that.
All right.
So after the Greater Wenatchee Toy Show, on June 30th through July 1st is Toy and Geek Fest. It's at the Washington State Fair and Events Center. So this is a show that the proprietor of has actually stopped by our table at a few different shows and talked to us about appearing. It's in Puyallup. So they've stopped at our table a few times and talked to us. It seems like it's going to be a pretty good event. I used to do a ton of signings in Puyallup. I always did really, really well there. So let's go ahead and discuss the negatives, because the positives are basically I have somewhat of a fan base in Puyallup already. And I haven't been there for a few years for any sort of signing or anything like that. So the negatives are it's a $300 booth.
That's quite a bit.
It is. It's a 2-day event, which would also Saturday and Sunday, which would also require a hotel stay. The drive time is pretty minimal. It's only going to take like 3 hours to drive there. It's not too bad.
Less than that.
Yeah, it depends on what traffic's like, honestly.
I guess, but still less than 3 hours.
Yeah.
It takes us 3 hours to get to Seattle.
It takes us about 4 when we're going to Seattle proper. You're thinking of when we go into like Crypticon.
No, man, I was just in Seattle the other weekend. It took us 3 hours.
You were driving like crazy. That's why.
We weren't driving like a grandma.
How many times did you stop?
None, because we don't feel the need to stop.
Okay, well that's why it didn't take you that long. You gotta remember I stopped like 500 times.
Yeah.
So in any case, it's definitely one I am thinking about, but it'll be dependent on how much of a budget I want to spend after the next one, because the next one is one I would definitely like to do. Do you have anything else to say about the Toy and Geek Fest?
This is a Puyallup show?
It's Puyallup show. It must be a fair-sized con because they have announced quite a lineup of celebrity guests. As their big headlining guest, someone I've never actually seen in a Comic-Con, Tom Welling, who played Superman in Smallville.
Yeah.
And they also are going to have, I don't know who that is.
He's in Lucifer now.
Oh, okay. So there you go. He's got double geek cred there. Jason Mewes is going to be there. Jay of Jay and Silent Bob fame. I don't recognize most of these other people.
He seems like the kind of guy you could totally get a high five
Kevin Sussman, who plays in Big Bang Theory as Stuart, the guy who owns the comic shop. He's going to be there. Other people I don't recognize, Brian Johnson and Ming Chen from Comic Book Men are going to be there. So they have some... And Mike Zapsik from Comic Book Men. I'm probably saying his name wrong. Probably why the booth costs as much as it does, honestly.
Yeah.
That being said, $300 is fine if you make your money back. But it's not just $300.
No.
It'd be $300 plus at least another $200 for our hotel stay.
It's more like $600.
It's more like $700 after you figure in that we got to buy food while we're there. We're not going to be eating at home any of those nights, anything like that.
Well, it's one day. Make yourself some food.
Right.
Pack it with you.
All in all, I just don't know if I want to spend that much on that. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Maybe.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one that I have down is July 21st through the 22nd. And that's Versus Comic Con that's happening in Seaside, Oregon.
What day did you say that was?
That's July 21st through the 22nd.
Okay.
Is that dates that you're available?
Off the top of my head, yeah.
Okay. That one is a $200 booth.
Better.
It is a first-year show. It's happening in a 2-story building where the bottom floor will be exhibitors, special guests, things of that nature, and the top floor will be Artist Alley.
Are you bottom or top?
I would be bottom because I don't see a point traveling all that distance, getting a hotel stay and all that if I don't buy an exhibitor space.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Just hopefully these cons that I buy exhibitor space at know what exhibitor space means, unlike the I Like Comic Con, who thought that it meant that you should be put back up against a very far back wall.
I think you should do that show.
I would like to. That one, as I had mentioned before, if nothing else, is a vacation at the beach.
Yeah.
So that one is going towards the top of the list just because it's at the beach. I mean, like, all this traveling we're doing.
At the beach in summer.
Right. All the traveling we're doing, we don't have a chance to do very much relaxing stuff at most of these places. Being at the beach will be a completely different story. Yeah, I want to move that one up. So after that, on September 7th through the 9th, is Rose City Comic Con, Portland, Oregon. I don't need to tell you about that show. You already know about that show. Booth there, $695.
Fuck them. That's way too much.
It might be. I'm not sure. Looks like Artist Alley is already sold out. Their Artist Alley is too bad because I would have actually considered doing Artist Alley at that show. It's a pretty sizable Artist Alley at that show, and it's nicely put together. It's not completely cramped like most Artist Alleys that you go to.
That's nice.
So I would have considered being in Artist Alley. Unfortunately, Artist Alley sold out. I'm sure Exhibitor will sell out rather quickly too. But $695.
That's a lot of money.
It is. So one of the things that I need to decide prior to saying no completely, though, is how many trades and hardcovers will I have in print this year. Because if I have a hardcover for Chronicles of Van Helsing, if I have a trade for El Bovine Muerte, it might make doing a show that expensive a lot more worthwhile because I have higher price point items on my table. So it's a thought.
I mean, I've never been to a show that big, and it seems hard to get returns that high.
Rose City, when I've been in it, has very much reminded me of what Emerald City used to be like. In the earlier years of Emerald City, kind of the mid-years, when it was a big con but not a huge con, you spent that much for a booth, and I actually, even after a hotel, could make profit there. It's completely insane the amount of posters alone that I would sell at Emerald City back then for $10 a pop.
Yeah, people want to, like, it's not much, and they can carry the little thing around.
Yeah. And
that
considering
makes
the fact
sense.
that prints cost me, 10 cents to print bulk, it was a good profit margin on this. So I'm not completely saying no to Rose City. And it is our biggest con in the area up until you get, 4 hours north and then you're in Seattle. So I'm thinking about it. So after that is October 20th, and that's the Lake City Comic Con in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. $75 for a table. Idaho. Coeur d'Alene is actually in that area where it's like Washington, then Idaho, then Washington, then Idaho, It's in the general Spokane, Washington area. So if I remember my geography correctly, Coeur d'Alene is kind of in the same vicinity as both Spokane and Lewiston. I think it's within like 2 hours of both. So there's a couple of things I'm thinking on this one, okay?
How long of a show is it?
It's 1 day. So there's a few things I'm thinking on this one.
Wait, how far away is it? How many hours of driving?
It's 7 hours probably.
Only 7? I expected it to be further.
No, it's about 7. It's about the same distance as if you were going to Spokane.
Okay. Well, you said that... Oh, okay. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Continue.
Okay, so here's things I'm thinking on this one, okay? So, the reasons I would want to go to the Lilac City Comic Con apply to this Comic Con as well.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing right there, is the same benefits I would get from going to Lilac would be with Lake City, and that's that I'm going. This is put on by the same guy who does Lilac. It's the first year they're doing this one, but one of the reasons I want to do the Spokane Comic Con was so that I could go visit Ty's family. I could also do that by going to one in Coeur d'Alene. It's in October, so there's probably not going to be a lot of other shows that are competing with it. Best of my knowledge, Coeur d'Alene is not an area that's ever had a Comic Con. So unless people want to drive the couple hours to go to the Spokane one, there's a lot of benefit to being in an area that's never had it before. And I know that this guy knows how to put on a good show, because I went to the first 3 or 4 years of Spokane. Those are the benefits. The downside is, it is a hell of a drive. But I think the hell of a drive is negated by the fact that I get to visit Ty's family if I go there. So, all in all, for $75, I'm thinking I'm probably going to do that one. Oh, and one of the downfalls can be is that in October, in that part of the country, we might run into some snow drifts on the way there.
Well, then, if that's what's going to happen, and given how far away it is, you might have to make that a 2-day thing.
Yes, I actually would probably plan on that.
Okay.
Because I'd want to spend some time in Lewiston.
That could get me along easier than having to drive 14 hours in 1 day.
I could see that. And if we did happen to take Elias with us as a third driver, we could just make him sleep in the car, in the trunk, with all the stuff. So just be like, you're guarding the stuff in the trunk of the car. I hope he's listening to this podcast. So the only other con I have down, which I have not looked at the dates or anything like that, I know that in previous years it cost about $300 for a booth for the weekend, is Wordstock that happens in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Wordstock is a different type of show to do than any of the rest of these. You already know what Wordstock is?
I know Wordstock.
Okay, for the listening audience, Wordstock is a writers and publishers convention, fair, whatever have you. It is in no way, shape, or form specific to comics or graphic novels or anything like that, but I would imagine Wordstock would be my best opportunity to network with booksellers and librarians.
And people that like books in general.
People like books in general, but...
And your typical Portland person.
And probably your untypical Portland person. So I like the idea of being able to go somewhere that is more likely to have a grouping of booksellers and librarians, and I think Wordstock may provide that. So I'm definitely thinking about doing that show, if for no other reason than that one. What do you think about doing Wordstock, since you're already familiar with it?
You said 300?
I believe in the past that it's held at about 300 all the times that it's been. And if I remember right, this show is generally in September, so I'm guessing it's probably when it is this year as well. I'll be doing some research on that.
If you can swing it, I think it would be good to go, because you don't have to travel more than 35 minutes to get to it.
Correct.
And 300 isn't too terrible.
No, not for what you get.
And since you don't have to travel far, and you're not paying a whole lot, you don't have to. You're easily going home. You're not spending money on all this shit.
Yeah.
And it's getting you a different market in the same city.
Right. Yeah. So I view
That's
all
the
of
biggest,
those as positives as well.
I think for the price and the market, it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah. So that's the list thus far.
I would imagine that kind of thing can go quick.
Word stock traditionally doesn't sell out until about a month before the show.
Just seems, really? Seems like something, especially with like the creator type stuff that Portland does, what they are. Seems like
you would think so.
It would go pretty quick.
But there's a lot of choices these days for various source shows. And I think, honestly, that Wordstock is probably more appealing to people who are publishing as well as writing, or publishers that are hosting authors. Because you got to think, you buy 2 booths and you could have 10 writers signing at it if you're a publisher.
I could be misremembering what I heard exactly, but it was a year or 2 ago, and I want to say it was Wordstock, that because OPV will do interviews with people there. And I think it was that one that they had a comic creator that they were interviewing for it. I think he wrote it, and someone in one of the southern states, I think, was his artist. And unfortunately, I can't really remember much about it, but I remember I was interested in it. So that's unfortunate.
Wordstock has comic creators in it. They don't seem to have anything against comic and graphic novel creators.
I don't think you're allowed to have a thing in Portland and be against people.
You're probably right about that.
all the crazy hipsters will drive you right out of town.
Yeah, anyway, that's the list thus far. And so, I'm going to continue to build on the list tonight and start paring it down. And obviously there's going to be shows that are on the same days, same weekends. And it's going to be a lot easier to start knocking those off the list as I decide I'll want to do this one or that one,
Yeah.
Like if anything's happening the same weekend as VersusCon, and I want to go to VersusCon that bad, that's going to be knocked off the list. So, In any case, I think that's it for this week. You can find us on Facebook. We have fan pages for Darkslinger Comics, Ghost Assassin, El Bovine Muerte. On Twitter, under Darkslinger Comics. Tumblr, Darkslinger Comics, and El Bovine Muerte. Instagram, under Darkslinger Comics. YouTube, Darkslinger0com. Google Plus, I believe, Darkslinger Comics as well. If not Darkslinger Comics, just try Darkslinger. I'm Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Thank you for listening.